And yep, good old Cold Hands command showing up in 2024. I love that. Looks like we got a lot of log teachings too. That's a flip land here for blue black.
Yep.
So, yeah. Right, I'll let you swap it.
Okay. All right.
And Chase's list should be up right there.
Yep.
If you want to pull it. It's pretty standard list.
All right. Sean jumping in, Ben tagging out for a round.
What's up, everybody? Whoa.
Yeah, this one's lower.
Yeah, just a bit.
Right.
Cool.
Now, Sean, I think my question for you to lead this off: who do you think is favored in this sort of matchup?
I mean, got to be Reanimator pre-board, right? That's just sort of the nature of things. Post-board, hard to say. I think Grixis control is a lot better than the meta share kind of would indicate. So really depends on how Andrew's configured his list.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I think, as you say, Grixis Control has a lot of, like, it's a smaller community, but very dedicated, and I do feel like they put up results reasonably well when they play their list. One thing I will say for, you know, in Tom's favor is that Grixis Control does have a good amount of graveyard hate in the main deck. So, you know, we see here in the opening hand, there's the Cling to Dust, which, if it had not been Thoughtseize, would have been a good way to help answer what Chase is trying to do here. And Grixis Control has a lot of flash threats, you know, a lot of Bowmasters, Brazen Borrower, things of this nature, Cool Guns command. And so it's actually not that hard if Tom can survive the early game to just hold up that 4 mana and make it so that, you know, Chase has to put a little more thought into how he uses Reanimates and Entombs.
Right, yeah. I think you can probably a Snapcaster Mage or an Orcish Bowmaster or something. You would just flash it at the end of turn and then kind of just play the control game as Grixis Control does until you know, you force Chase to go for it, and then you try to blow him out when he gets the combo. I mean, as far as Reanimator lists go, though, I also know it's been a while since I've done this, but I know they're also very tempo heavy. Psychic Frog obviously being a huge one. Metamorphosis Fanatic kind of showing up as well. So
yes, they're definitely much less all in than they would have been in, say, you know, 2020, 2021 with the printing of Psychic Frog. So
yeah.
I do think this is going to be a very back and forth game. I'm very excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. Chase playing a Ponder, looks like he's not opting not to shuffle, but then going to fire off the Entomb right here.
Yeah, so this is in response to the fetch, just in case, you know, Tom had something like Daze or Spell Pierce. This wouldn't, you know, he wouldn't be able to use those things.
Be able to catch it out, right?
Yeah.
So, as a player, do you think you probably don't go for the Entomb anymore, right? I think that might have been the old way to play against Reanimator. You would stop them from binning cards.
Yeah, it's much tougher this time around because, as you say, if you stop the Entomb, you know, they can still use the Reanimates and Animate Deads to target things like Psychic Frog. So I think it's probably very contextual. It probably depends on how well you feel your hand can beat those sorts of creature threats.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, how suited is it for the big monster?
Right, absolutely. Looks like a Shield is picked up by Tom Andrews. Rudy, does Chase have a shot at top 8 with their record?
Some X2s will make it. I think like about 2-ish X2s will make it.
Okay.
So it's a win and hope. You know?
Yeah, take it from Jeff, who was actually in this tournament. But yeah, I think if Tom gets it right here, he's probably in for sure.
Yeah, Tom is locked if he wins,
Yeah.
and will not make it if he loses. And then Chase has to hope for good breakers.
Yeah. Going to be a brainstorm from Chase right here. Definitely see some fetches in his hand, so he's probably not too worried about that. Interesting he kept the Daze. We might still be in the point of the game where he'll get some value out of that, but I think that's very quickly losing value.
It's definitely losing value. It did look like he just had enough bad cards to put back, and so maybe this is a blue card to pair with a potential Force of Will later on, or, as you say, you know, maybe you don't want your opponent to tap out for a 3-drop. Things of this nature. So,
right, yeah.
But yes, it is rapidly losing its effectiveness, so we'll have to see how he handles that.
And I guess he does have another brainstorm, so probably not too much harm in holding it for 1 or 2 more turns.
Yes.
And then seeing what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here if Chase decides to just go for the Surveil, which it looks like he is, or if he just wanted to brainstorm an end step and then use the Troll to cycle away any extra bad cards here. I like this decision. You know, using the Surveil land gets you one look deeper, and, you know, casting the brainstorm after you've gone as far into your library as you can definitely is very powerful.
Right, definitely. Also, not to mention, I think we're getting pretty close to hardcast Troll territory.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't think about it until it comes up, so that might be in the back of Chase's mind as well.
Right. So going to be another brainstorm right here. I see 2 dazes in the hand. I got to imagine at least one of them's going to be going away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And then drew the Archon, too, not what you want to see. So.
Archon, and I see a second troll as well.
Yeah, it looks like it. So I think the hand was just, a land, 3 trolls, and the Archon. And, Daze is not the best card here, but probably better than those 2, because it can potentially combine with a Force of Will. Or even when it doesn't counter something, picking up your Surveil land to get that extra Surveil value can be useful.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the Surveil lands in Legacy?
I think they're good. Anything that kind of takes pressure off of the fetch land, dual land mana base is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not so... I think the original concern was that Reanimator would go turn 1 Surveil land, bin an Atraxa, then untap and reanimate it. But in reality, the steps it takes to set that up are just not really.
Yeah, or just get lucky,
Yeah, or just get lucky.
Can't really
Yeah,
set it up.
right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, oh sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's just that's basically it. I think they're fine. They're not overpowered, and every deck seems like they can utilize them. Even Lands is playing Lush Portico and green white, and they can do some cool stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it looks like this is what was surveilled to the top of the library by Chase, which is pretty good here. This is one of the newest cards from Duskmourn. This is Metamorphosis Fanatic. It is a 6-mana 4/4 with lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you can return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. 6 mana is a lot, probably too much for Legacy, but it does have Miracle for 1 and a black. And this has definitely been a nice little buff to the blue-black Reanimator deck. Not that it needed it, but it is what it is. We play with the cards that we get from Wizards, so.
Right. Andrew's going to fight back with the Force right here. Interesting play by Chase to pick up, as you mentioned, the Surveil land with the Daze. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Where, this Daze is losing value pretty quickly, and also Chase just doesn't have things to be doing right now and wants to find action. So I think it makes sense to turn Daze into basically a Surveil 1 here.
And we did see a Snapcaster in Andrew's hand right here. I think it's going to be really tough to... Looks like ooh, what is that card that was just picked up?
This is a Reanimate. This is from the Warhammer 40,000
Ah, gotcha.
set. Yeah, I know, it's tough. Commentator job is tough.
Yeah.
So here we see Andrew is going to... Looks like Snap plus Cling to Dust targeting whatever this Reanimate is targeting, I will say. I was just about to mention that we're getting to that point of the game where Tom can escape the Cling. However, there's not enough stuff in the graveyard right now, so I think this is a very heads-up play. Obviously, when Snapcaster Mage flashes it back, it's gone forever, but it's probably worth it to stop the 4/4 lifelink and the Troll of Cosmere or the Atraxa from coming into play. So.
Yeah. And so I think Tom is in a good spot right now, but he does need to be careful that, we see the life totals are still relatively healthy on both sides. Grixis Control is not known for closing out games.
Exactly.
I would be concerned that Chase has time to rebuild, maybe hardcast a few trolls along the way, and then maybe just get back into this. And so if I'm Tom, I do feel like I really like my position, but I would start looking to turn, change gears and try to start closing this out right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that Tom is in a good spot right now. However, his shields are down, right? Where we got through the Force of Will, we had to flash back the Cling, and now potentially, if Chase draws another way to get a thing out of the graveyard, the game could change very quickly.
Right.
So we'll see how it plays out here.
Tom going to shuffle away 2 lands with this Brainstorm Fetch land combo. I did see a Shieldred's Edict still in hand, so I think that's going to be his last piece of relevant interaction. There was a Lightning Bolt there as well, but yeah, those might be coming out in the post board. Not very good against Frog. Definitely not very good against the Reanimator targets. Could probably help close out the game here, but generally I think you have better cards to bring in.
I agree.
Yeah.
And here we see the Ponder. This is an interesting Ponder, right? Where Cling is great, but you don't want to draw 2 lands. One of them is a fetch, so it looks like we'll be able to fetch the 3rd land away at least. But obviously this is one of your better draws, and so the fact that the card underneath it is not great, I think is... he's happy to make that exchange.
Right, can live with that. There's a fatal push for the turn for Chase. Yeah, probably don't want to push the Snapcaster quite yet.
Yeah, probably don't want to push the Snapcaster. 14 is in a life total where you have...
Oh, he's going to go for it.
To work around.
Yeah.
That is interesting. We'll see what he's thinking. I guess he's thinking, he wants the game to go longer. He's probably going to do this anyway. It does play into Orcish Bowmaster a bit, which is a card that we know that Tom is running 4 of. However, Chase doesn't know how many of those he needs to play around.
Right.
And it looks like the thing you've been foretelling is about to come into play. I think we're going to see a hard cast Troll of Kazan.
Reached that point in the game right there. Yeah. It might, I think it's going to run into a removal spell at this point, but, that's just the thing. You kind of just like run it out, draw out the resources bit by bit, and then, yeah, at that point, kind of have to see what Tom can put together.
Yes. Yeah, especially when it's something that costs 6 mana, it's so much of a tempo risk to like hold it and wait for something else like a Force of Will or whatnot. So
yeah,
I wonder if we'll see the days here, kind of the same trick as before, where
just to pick up the surveil.
Just need to surveil. This days isn't doing anything.
Yeah,
Chase, it looks like Chase is debating that.
I'd be tempted. If he did it before, I think there's no reason he doesn't do it now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that would potentially be hurt by that is if he draws another troll and would like to hardcast it. But as we say, these games do go on pretty long, so I think that he'll have the chance to do that should it come up.
Yeah. So sort of a slow draw from Chase right here. I mean, with the Dazes, I'm inclined to believe he's playing maybe a faster version of the deck, but we're getting into hardcast troll territory. The plays have all seemed kind of anemic. No early Frog, no early Bowmasters or anything. But I don't think he has any Bowmasters in the list.
There might be some in the sideboard. It's usually like a couple in the sideboard.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like he got any of that out this time, which is kind of a bummer.
And Chase is not playing any Bowmaster in the sideboard, instead opting for 2 copies of Barrowgoyf, which is also quite a powerful card.
Yeah,
so
we'll probably come in against Grixis control. It's going to help kind of grind out a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that's one of the powerful aspects of this blue-black deck is, as you mentioned, it has kind of a tempo element and a combo element. So it'll be interesting to see how Chase decides to take it after sideboard.
Tom with the Baleful Strix right here. Obviously, fantastic card.
Chase correctly pointing out that it does stick around. It's not just a 2-mana draw card.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be very good if it was that.
No. I can think of better things to run in that slot.
I agree, yeah.
And then a Ponder right here. Probably looking for... Okay, Frog is good. It's a start, but with so few cards in hand, it is still weak to the Bolt that Tom has. Yes,
this is true, where when your Psychic Frog opponent is empty-handed, then Lightning Bolt does in fact kill Psychic Frog. So, as you said, I do think in general, damage-based removal is not the best, but Grixis is pretty good at like grinding down your opponent's resources. And so I think this situation comes up more often than one might expect.
Yeah, some number of bolts might stay in. Bolt Snap Bolt is sort of a classic finisher from that deck as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Depends on what he has for the sideboard, and it looks like they're going to be packing up game number 1. Yeah, depends on, I guess, what Tom wants to bring in.
Yeah, can we pull up Tom's list here just to talk over what he might want to take in, take out?
Absolutely. So sideboard right here for Tom's list, he's going to have 1 Barrowgoyf, 1 Blood Moon, 2 Consign of Memory, 1 Fatal Push, 2 copies of Meltdown, 1 Metamorphosis Fanatic of his own, 1 Nihil Spellbomb, 1 Opposition Agent, 1 Pyroblast, 1 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Surgical Extractions, and 1 Thoughtseize. What do you like out of this?
Honestly, there's a lot that could come in. I think that is kind of common in fair decks like this, where you're not leaning in any one direction and just have like a mesh of good interaction. I kind of like the push and the Pyroblast just to handle the Psychic Frog element of the deck. I think that Surgicals and the Spellbomb make a lot of sense. You could argue maybe you want something like the Opposition Agent. It does stop in tune, but 3 mana is, of course, very slow. So it's possible, especially on the draw, that he might not opt for that.
Right.
But I think the Pyroblasts and the Fatal Push definitely, and the Graveyard Hate definitely.
Right, and I think it's sort of an interesting wrinkle of the Psychic Frog deck where it turns out Chase is only actually playing 1 copy, but I don't think Tom knows this. Oh, sorry, 4 copies. I was looking at the wrong card.
I think 1 Metamorphosis, 4
cards.
Yeah. No worries, no worries.
Had it backwards, and yeah, you're so that's the thing. You need to respect that card very much if you're Tom. We've all seen, 2 mana card advantage creatures can just run away with the game.
Yeah, and then on Chase's side, his sideboard, he has 2 Barrowgoyfs, 3 Consigned to Memory, 1 Dark Betrayal, 2 Fairy Macabre, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Harbinger of the Seas, 2 Hydroblast, and 1 Toxic Deluge. Do you see any of these coming in?
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about, the Baragloids, I think are going to be pretty good. Consigned Memory, probably not coming in. I know you can probably tag a couple of triggers from creatures, but all in all, not worth the card on its own. It's maybe more of an Eldrazi card, or can come in against Storm, something that's really hinging on that trigger to win the game. Harbinger of the Seas is one I'm kind of interested in. My only concern about that, good against 3-color mana bases, but it looks like Tom was very careful to fetch out basics pretty early on.
Yes.
You know, grabbed a couple of duels when he could, and obviously some surveil lands, but he did have basic island, swamp, and mountain. And so if I were Chase, I might bring that in just because it's good against his deck, but you would sort of have to work a little bit to make it good against Tom.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good analysis. I would say that whether or not it comes in is probably an indication of how desperate Chase feels the matchup in, where it's like, if you think it's so bad that you just have to hope that Harbinger lines up well and your opponent stumbles on their mana, then I could see it, but I kind of agree with you that it's unlikely to work out in most games.
Yeah. Also 2 copies of Hydroblast in the sideboard. I don't think those are quite worth bringing in.
It's close, yeah.
Yeah, the red cards, as we talked about, I think your Lightning Bolts and then maybe the Coleon's Command are pretty good.
There is Pyroblast on the board, and so maybe you can think that it counters that, but it's few and far between. The one thing I will say in support of Hydroblast is that the games do go on long, and so it's likely to find a target, even if there's only 6-ish spells to hit because the games go so long, you'll likely hit one of them, but as you say, it is narrow. So there's a lot up in the air. I'm very interested to see how the players want to approach this matchup.
Right. Let's see, Chase starting off the underground scene a Ponder. Looks like we caught him midway through peek at the top 3. I see a Reanimate, Polluted Delta, and I think the last card might have been, well,
we'll find out, maybe.
Yeah.
But Reanimate seems like a pretty good card to draw here. It looks like it might be on the top just to hide it from a Thoughtseize, which we do see that Tom plays, I believe, 2 or 3 copies of in total.
Yeah,
so.
Good heads-up play from Chase right here to hide the relevant card from Tom in this case.
Yep,
and
like that a lot.
Yep. Looks like he top-decked the Reanimate, as you mentioned, and so I have to imagine this is going to be cycling of the Troll. Oh, okay. Brainstorm.
Might be looking for more protection, or it might be, saying, hey, if I find an Entomb, this Reanimate, the ceiling could be much, much higher than just getting the Troll.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, probably a smart decision. Looks like Tom opted to keep the Brainstorm available. He might have more one-man interaction, but I saw he had a Tameo as well. Chose not to play it.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting choice from Tom's end. As you say, there was the Tameo that he chose not to play. It looks like there's a Surgical Extraction as well. And so I think what we're seeing here is the power of the blue-black deck, just like the threat of Entomb Reanimate, potentially backed up by Daze, meant that he wanted to have Graveyard Hate around a Daze rather than just playing out the Tameo and being a little exposed.
Right. It looks like he's going to go for maybe a basic island now and cast that Tameo.
Yeah, that one can't get swamped. So we'll see if he goes for Tameo. He did also draw a Nile Spellbomb, which may be what he plays, but there's definitely a good bit of tension, right? Because Tameo, you want to get it down as early as possible and start generating that value. And we see that is what he goes for.
Right. Tameo looks like it's Chase going to think about it. Don't think he has any counter magic, maybe just bluffing. So kind of a smart play on his part.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of Legacy. It's just always pausing a little bit.
Right. Do I have an island in play? Like, let me think about that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Chase probably going to go for, I'd imagine that Undercity Sewer right here. Just dig a little bit deeper. See if he can't find anything. Maybe an Atraxa, spike it off the top.
Yeah.
Right. Put it in the graveyard. So Tom seems like he's pretty well equipped to handle this. I know there's at least a Brainstorm over there. I saw a Surgical as well, so a few layers of interaction. Not completely cold to the Reanimate.
Yeah, it looks like Tom is in a good spot. We've seen Chase look at a lot of cards so far and not find any copies of Entomb or see any big monsters. Do you think it's possible that he cut that package and just is trying to play a fair game?
I would be surprised. It is, yeah. There's probably some merit to it. I just don't know what you would bring in.
Yeah, it's tough to know what to bring in, and as we've been talking about, I think that Grixis is definitely more wanting to play a long game. And speak of the devil, we do see the Entomb drawn. Chase has in his mind the idea that we're going to need to do something big and over the top that maybe is a little bit more vulnerable, but gives us the best chance to win. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, thinking about it a little bit more, that does make a lot of sense. You do, in some matchups, want to board out some of your, I guess, like spikier elements. Things that are very strong in the beginning and then a lot weaker at the end. You might board some of those out in grindier matchups, but the flip side of that is being on the play. You might be able to start off with an early Entomb Reanimate. And again, a lot of that just depends on how Chase wants to play it. He may feel that he can quickly go for an Entomb Reanimate in this matchup, which can go over the top of whatever Tom's doing. He may feel like he wants to go toe-to-toe with Tom in the late game and have boarded out some of those elements. We did see that one Entomb, but yeah, it's possible that he did a couple of them out. Maybe added in a couple more fair things, like as we talked about, those Barragoyfs, those Harbingers of the Seas. But it looks like he's going to be fetching up a basic island and maybe going for a Psychic Frog here.
Yeah, it does look like that's what he's gearing up to cast, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, you want to get this down early when you can, help to let it start generating value. It is tough for it to untap an attack against the Grixis deck, just between the Pyroblast and the Fatal Push, but and then like the Baleful Strixes. So, but still, you can't think that my opponent has an answer to this, therefore I just can never cast it. You just kind of have to still cast your cards and say that they're not going to have the answer all the time.
Right. Sometimes you just have to swing and hope for the best. Tom resolving a Brainstorm right here, putting away a Volcanic Island. He did find the Baleful Strix. I gotta imagine that's going to stay with him.
Yes. Baleful Strix, I imagine a large part of why it's in the deck is because it does line up well versus Psychic Frog on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
We've been seeing Tom play around Daze kind of very consciously throughout the course of this game. I'm very curious to see if he's going to decide to try and tap out for the Baleful Strix and put something in front of Psychic Frog, or if he's going to play a little safe and let the Frog attack and get an extra card of value.
Right. Sort of an interesting decision on his part.
Yeah.
There is some room for the Frog to pull away with the game right here. It looks like he's double cracking. I don't know if that means he's going to go for the Baleful Strix, but
We'll find out.
yeah. Oh, 2 more basics. That is a very, very clear tell. He's if the Harbinger of the Seas is not on his radar, he's at least very keyed into the possibility of Wasteland here.
Yeah, he's probably already priced in to play around Wasteland with how his hand shapes out. It doesn't even look like there's any red cards to cast, so
Right.
Harbinger might be on his mind, and then of course the Wasteland
Strix.
as well.
And then that Pyroblast is an excellent top deck right there.
Yeah, he does decide to play into Daze. Obviously worked out here, and I do kind of like the decision. You can't sit on your heels for too long when you're facing down pressure, and so I like that James has decided to, pivot a bit and say, I just have to start casting my spells and hope to resolve.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about good players know when to play around Daze, and then great players know when to just jam into it.
Play into Daze,
Yeah, sometimes you just have to.
Yes, I do believe that choosing when to play into Daze is a very relevant skill.
Yeah, too much respect hurts you sometimes.
It can, yes.
Is this Grixis Control James Kisal's list? That's a good question. James has been experimenting with something different every week, so I couldn't tell you if this is what he's doing.
I would say this is very, very close. Maybe a card or two different, but it does have a lot of very notable James Kizawa-esque cards. I think the if you could pull up the list real quick, I'm
Sure thing.
blanking on the name.
There's a Kaito.
Kaito is one card he's liked. The Nimble Obstructionist is a card that I've really only ever seen James play. It's a card that I associate with him a lot more than anyone else. So I would say it's safe to call it his list.
And Tom did take game 1, so yeah, apologize for not putting that up. Thank you for asking, Moses.
Yeah, Tom's up 1-0.
Let me see if I can get that up on the stream real quick.
Sure.
See if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben was our tech guy, and
No, sorry.
he's out.
He's all gone now. It's just us.
Oh, but you fixed it.
Yeah.
Through the power of technology.
Sure did.
Looks very slick. I like it quite a lot.
Thank you. You can see our high-tech setup with the life counters on the tables, because we couldn't figure out how to add it to the stream.
I think the stream would be very cluttered with life totals as well. So I think this is a good fix.
There we go. Yeah.
And we see here Chase thought seizing Tom, and sees a hand. A lot of good stuff. I don't think anything's coming back from the graveyard anytime soon, and so Chase decides to take the Narset with this thought seize. I do think that things are starting to pull away from Chase, where his graveyard's locked out pretty much, and he has this Entomb Reanimate that isn't doing much. He doesn't have an answer to the Baleful Strix, and the Tamiyo is slowly ticking up. So it's gonna be tough, I think, for him to put together something.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of an interesting, I guess, wrinkle about the Psychic Frog. He did see the Pyroblast in Tom's hand, but opted not to take it, instead going for the Narset. I do think that's the right play, but if I'm Tom, I have to think that Chase is some way of fighting back against this Pyroblast.
Yeah.
So that might be something, that I would start to have on my radar.
Yeah, it's funny because, we always talk about part of why Thoughtseize is so powerful is it gives the player a lot of information. However, it also gives the opponent some information, right? Based on what card was taken, it can kind of give you a clue as to what answers might be in the hand.
Okay.
So
Looks like Chase is going to offer up the trade right here. Tom will...
Yeah, so right now the Frog has -1 because of the Tamiyo uptick, and so Chase does need to discard this Entomb just to trade with the Baleful Strix. So not a trade that he was looking forward to making. However, with the known Pyroblast in hand, I understand why we did that.
Yeah.
And
although, interestingly, Chase now has the Hydroblast, which doesn't seem to have any targets, so... yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. So I think Chase is going to turn up a little bit slow here. I like his plan quite a lot, right? Where he was making way for the Barrogoyf here, where he wanted to clear the Baleful Strix out of the way, untap, play the Barrogoyf, but we do see that Tom has a copy of Brazen Borrower in hand, which was the one unknown, the card drawn for turn, and I think that's going to make it so that that Chase is just one turn too slow in terms of dealing with this Tamiyo, where he's going to play out Barrogoyf, it'll get bounced, Tamiyo will tick up to 8, he'll untap, play the Barrogoyf, and then Tamiyo will ultimate.
Yeah, and really just I think when Tamiyo was released, a lot of people were concerned about whether she would be, people thought she was too weak, and, I'll be honest, I was kind of on that train as well, but I don't know. This card has proved to be a powerhouse, especially in Legacy, where you just kind of brainstorm, flip it immediately. It can start ticking up so quickly, and Ultimate, it doesn't shut the door quite as hard as some other Ultimates do, but it will win you the game a lot of the time.
Very hard to lose with half your deck in your hand.
Yeah, right.
That does sometimes happen.
Yeah.
But yes, I think part of it is that Tamiyo, without any gains under your belt, it's a very difficult card to evaluate, right? Like this 1 mana thing that sometimes flips quick, sometimes doesn't, makes blue tokens. Planeswalker half is card advantage, but you have to wait a turn. It's very tough to evaluate. But I do agree with you that as we've gotten some time to play with it, it has definitely revealed itself to be a powerful mainstay of Legacy. And I do think a deck like Grixis Control is kind of the perfect shell to put it in, where you're a deck that wants to hit your land drops, you're a deck that wants to go long, and your deck where reusing spells is quite powerful.
Right. Tempo decks can still play it, but having something that doesn't deal damage can be a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Some of the other control decks or combo decks probably don't want it because they're not going long. And then control decks, as you said, this is probably the perfect home for it.
Yeah.
Chase going to cast and resolve a Barrogoyf. Tom is okay with it. Maybe eyeing that Brazen Borrower. Yeah. Going to attempt to go for petty theft right here, targeting the Barrogoyf.
Yeah, and so this is the line that we talked about, where just buy that one extra turn that you need to tick up with this Tamiyo, and then ultimate next turn, assuming nothing particularly bad happens. One thing I will say, it'll be interesting to see if Tom decides to play around Orcish Bowmaster or not, because we know that it's not in Chase's list. However, it is something to worry about. However, Chase, sees the writing on the wall, decides to pack it in, and it looks like Tom takes it 2-0 with Grixis Control.
That'll do it.